Have you ever wondered why organisms need to reproduce? I guess you are aware that an individual has a limited lifespan, right? And to live and continue the human race and the diversity of other organisms, reproduction is important. To be little more precise, reproduction is a biological process wherein younger ones produced are identical to their parents. You can observe reproduction happening from single-celled amoeba to multicellular forms such as us, human beings. Reproduction in general requires two parents to form an offspring, but do you know in some organisms only a single parent is able to produce a new organism? Isn't it interesting to see that? So, on the basis of number of parents that are involved in the process of reproduction, it is classified into sexual and asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, only a single parent is able to produce a new organism, whereas in sexual reproduction, two parents are involved in the process of reproduction. Have you ever noticed that some of your features match with your father and some with your mother? Why don't you look entirely like your mother and father? It is because of the variation which occurs during the fusion of two gametes, that is, in sexual reproduction, and that is the reason there is a variation in you. As we are all known to the fact that growth is part of all living beings till they die, and in their lifespan they undergo three phases of growth, that is, juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and senescence phase. Increase in height in case of humans, or emergence of new leaves in plants is juvenile phase or also called the vegetative phase. For example, in humans it is seen around 13 to 16 years of age. After the completion of the juvenile phase, an organism enters the reproductive phase, which is marked as appearance of flower in case of plants, and just as plants, even animals show such morphological changes, that is, development of male and female secondary sexual characters, such as facial hair in male and breasts in females. This phase results in the reproduction and production of new offspring which vary in different organisms. Now the end of reproductive phase marks the initiation of senescent phase, which generally shows senility, slowing of metabolism, and non-existence of menstrual cycle which eventually leads to the death of an organism. Now the question arises, which factor drives these changes to take place? So, the answer is simple. The hormones and certain environmental factors are responsible for such changes to take place. The birth of an offspring is considered one of the joyous events in our families, which even has a benefit of celebrating the birthdays every year with our friends and close ones, isn't it? This process of birth, however, undergoes various events till the offspring is born. Did you know every sexually reproducing organism begins his or her life as a zygote? Interestingly, zygote can be formed inside the body, such as in humans, as well as outside of the body, such as in water. With all this information, we know that sexual reproduction is a very complicated process and follows a particular sequence like fusion of male and female gametes, formation of zygote, and embryogenesis. But for the ease, we study them under three distinct names such as pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. Let us understand them as per their name. The first one is the pre-fertilization event, which includes all the events prior to the fusion, that includes formation of gametes known as gametogenesis following the gamete transfer. Let me simplify these terms for you. Gametogenesis is the process of formation of male and female gametes, and these gametes can be isogametes, that is, if the gametes are similar in appearance, that you will not be able to differentiate between male and female gametes, for example, cladophora and algae. Gametes formed can also be heterogametes, that is, gametes are morphologically distinct or different types, for example, sperms and ovum in case of humans. But do you know that it is not always true that sexual reproduction in organisms involves the fusion of gametes from two different individuals? Interestingly, some plants have both male and female reproductive structures in same plants known as bisexual or monoecious plants, for example, hibiscus plant. And when the male and female reproductive structures are on different plants, they are called as unisexual or dioecious plants, for example, papaya and date palm. But what about animals? In case of animals also, there are species which have both the reproductive organs known as bisexual animals or hermaphrodites, for example, earthworms and sponges, whereas animals having either male or female reproductive organ are known as unisexual animals, example, cockroaches. To fuse the formed male and female gametes, they must be physically brought together to facilitate the process of fusion, that is, when gamete transfer takes place, in which male gamete is motile and reaches the female gamete, which is stationary. In case of animals, gamete transfer takes place through copulation, and in case of plants, gamete transfer takes place through the process of pollination. Then comes the most vital event of sexual reproduction, the fusion of gametes known as fertilization. In this stage, the male and female gamete fuse to form a diploid zygote. Did you know that syngamy is another word used for fusion of gametes or fertilization? Interestingly, fertilization does not occur in every sexually reproducing organisms, for example in rotifers, honeybees, turkey and some lizards. A process called Aspartanogenesis takes place. In this process, the female gamete does not fuse with male gametes, but undergoes developments such as cell division and chemical changes to form new organisms. Parthenogenesis occurs in only a few organisms. Fertilization, however, occurs in a wide variety of aquatic and terrestrial organisms. But fertilization that occurs in aquatic and terrestrial organisms differs from each other, such as in case of aquatic organisms, example, fish, frogs, the fertilization is external. In external fertilization, male and female release their gametes in water followed by the fusion and formation of zygote outside the body, that is, in external environment. Whereas internal fertilization is common in terrestrial organisms, example, in fungi, reptiles, bryophytes, and pteridophytes. In this case, the fusion of gametes occurs inside the body of females, where female gametes are stationary, and male gametes being motile travel till the female gamete to fertilize. Just after the fertilization, the post-fertilization events occur, which mainly involves the development of zygote called embryogenesis. Did you know that zygote is the vital link that ensures the continuity of species between organisms of one generation to the next? So, every sexually reproducing organism, including human beings, begin life as a single cell, the zygote. During embryogenesis, the zygote undergoes the cell division known as mitosis as well as cell differentiation. Based on whether the development of zygote takes place inside or outside the body of an organism, animals are divided into two categories: oviparous and viviparous animals. Animals such as birds and reptiles lay eggs covered by hard calcareous cells in a safe environment that hatches after a certain period of incubation. Such animals are called oviparous animals. On the other hand, in various mammals, including human beings, the zygote develops into a young one inside the body of the female organism, and after attaining certain growth, the young ones are delivered out of the body of the female organism. Such animals are called as viviparous animals. Let us now understand the development of zygote in the case of flowering plants. After the fertilization takes place, the sepals, petals, stamens of flower wither and fall off, but pistil consisting of ovules remains attached to the plant. During embryogenesis, zygote develops into the embryo, ovules develop into the seeds, ovary develops into the fruit, which later develops a thick wall of protection called asperica. Inside the mature seed is the progenitor of the next generation, the embryo. This was all about the basic concepts of the events taking place in sexual reproduction. You can now go to EduRef to understand the topic in depth, as EduRef provides detailed documents, notes, mind maps, and much more. You must also attempt various tests available on the EduRef app, as practice is the key to scoring well in exams. Thank you.